So, Mark, I'm pretty excited about talking about designing for millennials today. You know why?
Tell me why.
Because I always kind of feel like I've got 1 foot over near the millennials and 1 foot over near the Gen Xers.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really feel like I'm either. So I want to know more about the half of me that's not the half of you.
Well, the 1 foot that I have in the grave and the other that I have to the millennials or Generation Y.
Yeah.
Because young at heart, ancient in
Yes, your cardiovascular system is quite fantastic. But we are talking to one of the 30 under 30 today and the 40 under 40 and probably...
For Kitchen and Bath Design.
Yes.
Kitchen and Bath Industry Show and Remodeling Magazine.
Yes.
About designing for this group, the Millennials.
Yes, tell us all about the millennial crowd that we're hearing so much about that don't want to own houses and that are living with their parents. And how do you design for everybody? Courtney?
Well, being a millennial, I mean, I know how I would design for myself, but it seems like as a generalization, the millennials are wanting to be in closer to like where all the action's happening. So they find themselves in more urban settings than the suburban areas. And so where their parents might have been all about kind of the McMansion home, they are okay with a smaller home so long as they're closer to kind of where everything's happening. That seems to be a general finding for millennials.
So it's about social, where they live.
Yes. We like to be social. We like everyone to know everything that's happening in our lives. Usually only the good stuff, but sometimes the other stuff too.
Hold on a second.
That's funny.
Sometimes I tweet while...
He's going to take some selfies. It's crazy. This is Mark learning about millennials. Right? Are you geotagging too?
If I knew, yes.
You knew what that was.
Duh. Hello.
Okay,
know about
so,
that.
The whole McMansion thing was about status, and everybody wanted to have, everyone wants to have the right
great
bag,
room
wants to have
and
the right outfit, the right bag, the right house, the right address, the right neighborhood and everything, and so they could show off all to their friends. But with social networking, you don't need to be in any one place anymore. Is that sort of what's changing it?
Yeah, and I still think they want those little special pieces, maybe it's not the house being so huge, but I think they do want little trinkets and special little focal points within their home that's going to make them stand out. And but it doesn't necessarily have to be scale, I guess. And we're controlling our alarm systems and our appliances by an app on our phone these days. So, they're totally technologically savvy consumers. And so I think that that's kind of what they're taking into their homes as well.
Now, are we seeing, is the dining room, the formal dining room going away with the millennial generation? Yeah,
again, because the houses are potentially getting smaller, they want more of those spaces that you're going to use all the time rather than the set-alone formal dining room. It's more of that open concept floor plan. They really like indoor-outdoor connectivity. They kind of see the outdoor as a continuation of their home and of their space. So that's really important too.
I love that, by the way.
Yeah.
That's just, we're talking about millennials and designing for millennials, but what works, works. And if you can keep the outside and the outside, the outside and the outside. Courtney, I live outside, by the way. We don't live together.
I let him in just for these chats. That's it. That's all he gets inside for. So he's so excited.
I have a building wild cabin, out in the backyard.
Yeah.
And the only implement that I have to eat and survive with is an axe.
Yeah.
So
it makes a great plate, and it makes a good
utensil. You can use it for everything.
You totally.
Wow. So that's quite handy, I suppose.
Blending the outside and the inside environment. Do you see a call for big windows? Is it doors and decks? Is it all of the above?
I think it's, outdoor grilling spaces, and again, with the large windows where it's just you feel like you're connected to the outside and things that are going on around you, maybe while you're even still just sitting in the house watching TV on the couch. You have that connectivity to the outdoors.
Now, is the open floor plan something that millennials like?
I would say yes. I mean, I think they want to have people over. It's less of a formal dinner party and more of everyone, I would say, kind of hanging out together and congregating in a more informal setting. So yeah, I think the open concept, like kitchen to living room, definitely lends itself well to that.
Now, I am of the small group of people on the planet in this country that does not like the open floor plan. I like to be able to open it up, but I like to be able to have like
a door that closes,
pocket doors, and like we have a barn door and everything to try to close things off when you want to.
That's a fair thing to say. We've definitely, I specifically have had a lot of clients that they want that openness, but like you said, they want to be able to, if they are in that rare instance having kind of a more formal setting, they can close off the mess where they've been cooking and not have to worry about that until later after all the guests have left. So there's definitely a benefit to having the option to close those spaces off if you want, but not by a wall, more with like you said, like a barn door or pocket door scenario.
And for design feel, you've got formal, rustic, all those different kinds of categories. Do you see with millennials where you are and designing for them a trend towards, natural wood or steel or that, you know what I mean?
Or axes.
Yeah.
Like, are they modern?
It definitely has that kind of like industrial modern vibe. That's what I would call it. They like kind of the reclaimed wood. They like some of the more industrial, like maybe there's an exposed brick wall, a little bit more like, I don't know if you think about like hotel lobbies or like a loft style. That's kind of what I see in Atlanta where I am for this age bracket.
So do millennials even ever have that experience of the plastic on the furniture in the formal living room? No? Did you ever sit on that? No? All right. That's why I'm like halfway between here and there, because when I was a very little kid, there was a plastic. Do you ever go to people's houses?
Oh my God!
I had a friend her mom had it was white carpet with white furniture with white walls, and like no one ever went in there. And because with millennials, they want to be close to everything. Prices are a little bit higher, houses are a little bit smaller, and so those rooms kind of go away in a smaller home if they want everything to be kind of a livable space.
Well, my mother, who's a baby boomer, 1945, she had a white room that, I kid you not, she used, so it had to be all white, and we had to use it but not get anything in it. You paralyzed in there.
She's a brave woman.
You had to get like a Tyvek suit, go in there with your book, gloves, because if you got any grease from your hands on anything.
I can't even imagine you and your sister ever being in any room where his sister is basically the female version of him. Like she's kind of a little bit crazy.
A rolling bomb squad herself.
Crazy.
Yeah, but
not calm. I can't imagine she doing that to you.
I think the carpet was made of porcelain. So
we don't have that anymore.
We're not seeing that.
No, I say those are a thing of the past.
Okay. Now, what about the American obsession with containers and storage and having off-site storage for your possessions that you never use or you just have? Is that something that millennials are still doing?
I would say the thing is like you said, a lot of them have been staying at home a little longer, and so they might not have acquired quite as much stuff. People are getting married later. They're, I don't know that the storage is necessarily something that they would do off-site. Although if the houses are smaller, then they might need that.
Yeah, there's a lot of that in the Gen X generation.
Yeah,
of like having those pods and having the storage and because you start inheriting things that you don't want to get rid of, but you don't want to incorporate it too into your home. Yeah,
that's the thing. I do think that it's more of a streamlined design style in general. So having a lot of like clunky furniture around, I would say, is not necessarily on trend with the majority of millennials. But yeah, like you said, as you start to acquire different pieces from family members and whatnot, it's kind of like, where do those fit in with both their style and within the smaller potential home? So I don't know. That's an interesting question.
Well, breaking away a little bit from the general topic of designing for millennials, for someone who is of millennial age,
Yes.
what's just the sickest thing that you've designed for whomever it is? Just the craziest, diamond refrigerator or...
Ooh.
Yeah, which we have, by the way. That's where I got that idea.
Well, we have two. We have one for...
Don't show off.
Mine's gold-plated. It's fine. Yeah. Love my gold-plated refrigerator. No, gosh, let's see. The craziest thing. The area of town that I work in Atlanta, it's a lot of 1920s bungalows. It's a lot of smaller homes in general. So people in this area aren't specifically looking for crazy. They're looking for functional. I mean, these houses are smaller. They're not working for their families, and so they're wanting to make it work. And so, crazy specific design element, I don't know. But we had one house that was turned into a duplex, and then we totally basically demolished the whole thing. It was a historic renovation, and basically the whole thing got demolished except for the front facade because it was historic. And I mean, that was pretty crazy because it had been turned into two houses, and then we kind of reconfigured it back into one for the family. And it's a couple in their early 30s, and it was a fun one.
That sounds really good.
I love the leave the front wall remodel.
Yes.
It's just stupid. I gotta say
that. I kind of actually dig it because it's like your expectation when you go into that house is that it's going to be one thing, and then you walk in and you're like, whoa, this is totally not what I expected.
Yeah,
I like that
it's
experience.
Kind of fun. It's kind of like a don't judge a book by its cover type of remodel.
Well, let me go back on that.
I need to ask a question.
Well, of course you do.
I'll go back, and it's kind of really important to me.
In 3 months, I'll ask you later.
Okay.
So having very slick, modern, cool places, thinking about I'm going back to storage, trying to figure out how to fit all kinds of different uses into a space. Is that something that millennials are asking for? Because are they working at home and telecommuting and all that stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I think that they're wanting to capitalize on all the storage space that they potentially have. Whether it's under the stairs or recessed medicine cabinets that still have a sleek design element to them. I mean, they're certainly wanting to capitalize on everything that they possibly have, but I don't know that it's necessarily outside of the house.
Okay. Now, are they communicating with you? Do you get just an email with a bunch of a Pinterest board, and they're like, "Can you design this for me?"
Yes.
You do?
House is a big thing that we use all the time with clients. They'll send us their boards, and it's one of those things where they might not see consistencies, but I will as a designer, and so it's a blessing and a curse because everyone has a budget, and house is generally the most beautiful things ever. And so it's good to see what they like and then see how we can balance it within their budget goals too.
Do you find as a group that their budget perspectives are realistic, unrealistic as compared to other groups?
That's a tough one. I would say they certainly do their research. I mean, they grew up with technology. They are looking around at they're shopping around before they ever step foot into a showroom or an office or anything. Some of the home renovation channels can certainly skew things a little bit, I would say. So I don't know. I don't know if it's the most realistic view. I would say some do, some don't.
Okay. Yeah, I guess
I'll take the politically correct answer on that one.
That is a little bit different. Growing up on, HGTV and growing up with, all this access on the internet, and then Pinterest and House and
I grew up with oil painting, so I don't even know what we're talking
you just
about.
have access to so many different things, and so of course you want that. But, every little piece that you add, every little, drawer divider or spice pull out, it all adds cost. And, sometimes it's just the idea of having it rather than the function of having it that's appealing.
Okay.
But they're an interesting consumer because, with a click of a button, they're telling their entire network whether they had a great experience with you or a not so great experience with you. And you are reaching a ton of people with millennials that you don't even expect to reach. So I think
That's
it's kind of interesting.
Now, is that a dynamic that I can imagine for you, 30 under 30 K-Biz, 40 under 40 remodeling show, you're
Remodeling
designing
Magazine.
for millennials and everybody else, but have you had, or can you share a good experience with, you got a referral, you got whatever good thing happened because of this sort of millennially specific social networking?
You know, Renewal Design is the company that I work for, and they are wonderful at reaching out via social networking, you know, just marketing in general. Like, they just have a great presence here, especially in Atlanta. What I've seen a lot, especially from the NKBA 30 under 30, is younger design professionals kind of reaching out saying, you know, how did you get where you are? You know, what would you recommend? What would you want to change? And that was one of the big reasons that I wanted to do the NKBA program, because, you know, as the people that have been in NKBA for a while, they kind of talk about like the 30 under 30 as the next generation, but really it's the people that are in school right now that are kind of the next generation. So that's been a really neat experience, is kind of how I can help someone that maybe is trying to get into this industry, and or maybe has been in it for a couple years and wants to, you know, see where they can go from here. That's been really fun.
In the minute or so that we have left,
yes,
this question's going to be tough to ask, because the millennial generation, because of television, has also grown up with all the generations before. Like, for example, you might know a show that was on when you were 2 years old because you watched it on whatever, TV Land or, you know, Old Show Network.
Yes.
Okay.
So that kind of ethos is part of you, and you could drop, I got to think of an extreme one, Miami Vice. You know what that is. You were like 6 seconds old when that show was on, but you're talking to someone who watched it in high school, and you're like, that's so Miami Vice, and the guy's like,
how do you know
I
that?
love that show.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Do you find that there's a communication overlap that's good or bad?
Oh gosh, that is a tough one. Jeez, Mark.
Oh, good. We have to go. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
That's a hard one because, you know, luckily where I work, we tend to work in teams, and so we have a wide range of people. So usually if they drop something that I might not be aware of, usually somebody on the team knows what they're talking about, and so that rapport continues with the client. No, I mean, I think people are sometimes surprised at what millennials know and remember, because we grew up with some of this stuff, and that's a tough one. God.
Yeah. No, I think you just said it. You grew up with it just like they did.
Yeah, just a different time frame.
Which is weird. And it's also weird that we have to go.
Well, it's also weird the amount of information that millennials are consuming. I think they have computers in their brains. I think, like, it's all just smartphones. Like, we swear, our 5-year-old, by the time he's in his 20s, he'll just
digitized.
think it, and it just will come up and, like, magic.
Yeah, I'm the type, like, I still have to, like, write out a to-do list if I actually want to get things done. Like, I have to write it down. It can't just be on my phone. But no, the kids now, like, everything is digital. Crazy.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy.
As it turns out, this is an old communication device.
What is that thing?
I think is it a pen?
It's right there, and we've used these in the past. When I was born, they were feathers.
Yes. You had to dip them in the ink.
So follow Courtney Rogers.
Yes, everybody listening and watching. Yes, on Twitter.
And follow us on Twitter. And you can watch this interview on YouTube.
Yeah. Woohoo!
Thanks, Courtney.
Thank you.
Guys, great to see y'all.